Good afternoon everyone. Today I will be discussing about the proclamation of the Philippine independence. As a Filipino citizen, we should know at least how our country, Philippines, got the freedom or independence. Every year, the country commemorates the anniversary of the Philippine independence proclaimed on June 12, 1898 in the province of Cavite. Indeed, such event is a significant turning point in the history of the country because it signaled the end of the 333 years of Spanish colonization. There have been numerous studies done on the events leading to the independence of the country, but very few students had the chance to read the actual document of the declaration. This is in spite of the historical importance of the document and the details that the document reveals on the rationale and circumstances of that historical day in Cavite. Interestingly, reading the details of the said document in hindsight is telling of the kind of the government that was created under the Aguinaldo and the forthcoming hand of the United States of America in the next few years of the newly created republic. The declaration was a short 2,000-word document which summarized the reason behind the revolution against Spain, the war for the independence, and the future of the new republic under Emilio Aguinaldo. The proclamation commenced with a characterization of conditions in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. The document specifically mentioned abuses and inequalities in the colony. The declaration says, taking into consideration that their inhabitants, being already weary of bearing the ominous yoke of Spanish domination, on account of the arbitrary arrest and harsh treatment practiced by the civil guard to the extent of causing death without connivance and even with express orders of their commanders, who sometimes went on the extreme of ordering the shooting of prisoners under the pretext that they were attempting to escape in violation of the provisions of the regulations of their corps, which abuses were unpunished and on account of the unjust deportations, especially those decreed by General Blanco, of eminent personage and of high social positions at the instigation of the Archbishop and the friars interested in keeping them out of the way for their own selfish and avaricious purpose. Deportations were quickly brought about it by a method of procedures more execrable than that of the Inquisition, and which every civilized nation rejects on account of the decision being rendered without a hearing of the persons accused. The passage demonstrates the justification because the revolution against Spain, specifically cited, are the abuse by the civil guards and the unlawful shooting of prisoners whom they alleged as attempting to escape. The passage also condemns the unequal protection of the law between the Filipino people and the eminent prisoners. Moreover, the line mentions the average and greed of the clergy alike and the friars and the archbishop himself. Lastly, the passage also condemns what they saw as the unjust deportation and rendering of the decision without proper hearing, expected of any civilized nation. From here, the proclamation proceeded with a brief historical overview of the Spanish occupation since Magellan's arrival in Visayas until the Philippines Revolution, with specific details about the latter, especially after the Pact of the Biak na Bato had collapsed. The document narrates the spread of the movement like an electric spark through different towns and provinces like Bataan, Pampanga, Batangas, Bulacan, Laguna, and Morong, and the quick decline of Spanish forces in the same province. The revolt also reached the Visayas, thus the independence of the country was ensured. The document also mentions Rizal's execution, calling it unjust. The execution, as written in the document, was done to please the greedy body of the friars in their insatiable desire to seek revenge upon the exterminate all those who are opposed to their Machiavellian purposes, which tramples upon the penal code described for these islands. The document also narrates the Cavite Mutiny of January 1872 that caused the infamous execution of the martyred native priest Jose Burgos, Mariano Gomez, Jacinto Zamora, whose innocent blood was shed through the intrigues of those so-called religious orders that incited the three secular priests in the said mutiny. The Proclamation on Independence also invokes that the established republic would be led under the dictatorship of Emilio Aguinaldo. The first mention was at the very beginning of the proclamation. It stated, "In the town of Cavite Viejo, in this province of Cavite, on the 12th day of June 1898, before me, Don Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, Auditor of War and Special Commissioner appointed to proclaim and solemnize this act by the dictatorial government of these Philippine Islands, for the purpose and by virtue of the circular addressed by the eminent dictator of the same Don Emilio Aguinaldo Fami." The same was repeated towards the last part of the proclamation. It states, "We acknowledge, approved, and confirm together with orders that have been issued therefrom, the dictatorship established by Don Emilio Aguinaldo, whom we honor as the supreme chief of this nation, which this day commences to have a life of its own, in the belief that he is instrument selected by God, in spite of his humble origin, to effect the redemption of this unfortunate people, as foretold by Dr. Jose Rizal in the magnificent verses which he composed when he was preparing to be shot, liberating them from the yoke of Spanish domination with the punishment of the impunity with which their government allowed the commissions of abuses by its subordinates." Another detail in the proclamation that is worth looking at is its explanation of the Philippine flag, and was the first waved of the same day. The document explained, "And finally it was unanimously resolved with this nation, independent from this day, must use the same flag used heretofore, whose design and colors are described in the accompanying drawing, with design presenting in natural colors the three arms referred to. The white triangle represents the distinctive emblem of the famous Katipunan Society, which, by means of its compact of blood urged off the masses of the people to insurrections. The three stars represent the three principal islands of Archipelago Luzon, Mindanao, and Panay, in which the insurrectionary movement broke out. The sun represents the gigantic strides that have been made by the sons of these lands on the road of progress civilization. Its 8 rays, symbolizing the 8 provinces of Manila, Cavite, Bulacan, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bataan, Laguna, and Batangas, which were declared in a state of war almost as soon as the first insurrectionary movement was initiated, and the colors blue, red, and white commemorates those of the flag of the United States of North America, in manifestation of our profound gratitude towards that great nation for the disinterested protection she is extending to us and will continue to extend us." This often overlooked details reveals much about historically accurate meaning behind the most widely known national symbol in the Philippines. It is not known by many, for example, that the white triangle was derived from the symbol of the Katipunan. The red and blue colors of the flag are often associated with courage and peace, respectively. Our basic education omits the fact that those colors were taken from the flag of the United States. While it can always be urged, we argued that symbolic meaning can always change and be reinterpreted. The original symbolic meaning of something presents us several historical truths that can explain the subsequent events, which unfolded after the Declaration of Independence in 12th day of June 1898.